of my favorite things to do is introduce you to people you probably have heard of, but see a different side of them. Joining me right now is the president of the Arizona Diamondbacks, Derrick Hall. Thanks for being here.
Mike, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
First of all, congratulations on the big comeback season. It's nice to see the D-backs back.
Appreciate that. It's rare to go from 69 and 93 to 93 and 69 the next year, but we really had a magical season. Fans were great.
It's we talked earlier on the radio side of things. It's easy to cheer for this team. It's not just loaded with talent, but loaded with really good guys.
They are. I mean, you look at that entire roster. You could look at the 25-man roster or the 40-man roster. One thing they have in common, they care about their families and they care about the fans. And it is genuine. It's real. They're a part of the community. They love to sign autographs, take pictures. You don't see that with every team, but you really see it with these guys, and they understand what it means to be a D-back.
One of the things we were talking about earlier was about community investment. And I do a thing on the radio side called Arizona Legacy Leaders, and it highlights the business community and investment. And it came from you, from the Diamondbacks. My daughter living in the West Valley, she lives out in Buckeye, and there's not a lot out there. It's a small town. But this huge, thriving oasis is the Craig Council Field, and it was built by the Diamondbacks, and it really is a centerpiece of that town. It's cool.
Yeah, those are great. When you have 40 plus of those fields throughout the entire state of Arizona, we're the Arizona Diamondbacks, not the Phoenix Diamondbacks, so we want to impact as large a footprint as we can of Arizona. But when you see those fields in those communities like Buckeye, where they can really make a difference and an impact, they're beautiful, by the way. They're like mini replica Chase Fields, but it's baseball, it's softball. Get kids playing, get interested in the sport. They've been a huge success, and they're well manicured. They're placed throughout. They're in Tucson. They're in Flagstaff, Sholo, Parker. They're everywhere. And those fields mean a lot to our players. They mean a lot to our partners and to us. And it's something we're going to continue to do. In addition to that, as you and I also talked about, Mike, you now see the kids all playing in D-backs uniforms too. When we talk to all the directors of the little leagues and softball leagues, and they tell us their biggest concern and their biggest hurdle and challenge financially is the cost of uniforms, we said, we're going to take that upon ourselves. So now they're wearing the uniforms, they're wearing the caps, 50,000 kids throughout the state. That number's only going to grow. And they were able to keep the leagues open, maybe waive the entry fees, build concession stands or mounds, or fix their fields.
You know what's nice to see when you go to a Diamondbacks game is you're starting to see it's a Diamondback game.
Yeah.
That makes sense. It used to be when the visiting team was in town, a lot of the fans were there, but it's now turned into where this is a Diamondback. This is a culture now where people love the Diamondbacks.
Funny you say that. When I first started here and I would look out of my office and I could look down on the concourse, I've got glass from floor to ceiling, and I would look down before, say, a Cubs series. And a lot of transplants here, a lot of Cubs fans, a lot of Giants fans, Dodgers fans because of spring training. And I would look down before a Cubs series and I'd see the parents wearing Cubs jerseys, holding hands with kids on the concourse wearing Cubs jerseys. Now, you see the parents wearing Cubs jerseys, holding hands with kids wearing D-backs jerseys.
Right.
So it's that second generation, you're starting to see it. There are kids now, like kids my age. I've got a 22-year-old, a 19-year-old, and a 16-year-old. They've known no other team. So the D-backs are their team, and it's great now, as you say, that wave has gone through. These are true D-back fans.
Well, and to watch, and going back to the Little League fields, I've always said that getting kids involved in extracurricular activities, especially sports, makes them better people in the long run. To have a kid in a Little League game lose a big game and to learn how to lose with dignity or to win with grace, those moments where it's 1 minute you're exhilarated and the next minute it's like a punch in the stomach. But in the long term, you realize nobody got killed, nobody lost a job or a house, and it prepares them to be a better workmate down the road, don't you think?
Absolutely, I do. And none of us like to lose, but it's how you deal with it. Dealing with adversity in life, you really deal with it at a young age in sports, and especially that team sport. It's one thing to be one-on-one with tennis or in golf, you're in your own world. But when you have 8 other players on the field that are relying on you or you're relying on them, you win together, you lose together, but more importantly, you're teaching sportsmanship and how they can act after that loss on the field. And that's what it's all about. But also making sure that they understand the game. They may not be the best, but they're out there playing, they're trying, and they're becoming fans of that game, we hope, for a lifetime, for eternity.
And baseball's made a big comeback, and I think that I love baseball. I love going out to the games because it's so much fun to sit at a game, and it's a whole different vibe when you're sitting in the stadium. But it's also, I think, because I'm back, Luis Gonzalez, you were telling the story on the other day when you won the World Series, see Randy Johnson around town. To have them be a part of the community still is great because for the parents to see the players they love that were on the field and watch the kids just worship the guys that are on the field now.
I love that, to have Luis Gonzalez back, Randy Johnson back, Mark Grace has been here, Matt Williams, Willie Bloomquist, J.J. Putz, these guys that were a part of winning and a part of that tradition. Now they're here, and it's generational. And for kids to sit in the stands and look up and say, who wore number 20? Why is there a 20 up there? Well, that was Luis Gonzalez's number. Why is there a 42? Jackie Robinson. The great thing about baseball is you could sit there. You're talking about the pace of play, but you sit there in the stands. It's the family sport. You can talk. You can interact. You talk between pitches. You talk between innings. It's still, there's nothing like it in all of sports.
Well, I want to talk a little bit more about the community service side of things, because the Diamondbacks and the Diamondback charities do so many things, but you yourself are involved in so much of what goes on around Arizona. So I want people to know a little bit more about you and about what you do and the mindset. We'll be back with Derrick here in just a couple of minutes. Stick around. Big argument all the time about professional sports and what the community should do and how involved we should be. Well, let's turn the tables and how involved you are in the community. So you got the Diamondbacks have a big fundraiser coming up.
We do. It's our annual fundraiser, Evening on the Diamond. It's become, I think, one of the best events, and I'm a little biased, but of the year anywhere in the Valley. And it's our, let's see, this would be, we started back quite a few years ago, and our entertainment at the time was, you know, we had country acts, we had comedians, we had more mainstream acts and top 40. This year it's going to be Chris Lane, who's a country artist as well. It's actually going to be on a Saturday for the first time. We're raising money now where it's anywhere from $1.2 million to $1.5 million on that one night to really get us going, because we're at an accelerated pace now, Mike, where we're raising $6 to $7 million each year going right back into the community. We've only been around since '98. And we just surpassed a $50 million mark in community giving, so it's awesome.
So where does that come from in you personally? This idea of, because we've talked a number of times, and you are as passionate at least about the giving back side as you are the on-field success side. Where does that come from?
That's a great question. I think it came from my family. My parents were always saying, make sure you give back. Don't just do for yourself, but do for others. And then when I started working years ago with the Dodgers, who we don't like now, but when I worked for the Dodgers.
Oh, I never have.
Okay, good.
You don't now, but I never have.
So at the time, my boss and our owner was Peter O'Malley, who was a wonderful owner. You know, the O'Malley family was great. And I remember we were going through a workplace campaign, much like a United Way campaign. And I had just started working full-time in Vero Beach, Florida, not even in LA for the Dodgers. And it was remarkable that he knew me, but he came up, he's riding his bike in spring training, and he stops. And he says, Derrick, I was just looking at the list of those employees who were given back to this campaign, and I realized you're not giving anything. And I said, well, Mr. O'Malley, with all due respect, I don't make that much. And without skipping a beat, he says to me, then don't give that much. And I'll never forget that. But it was give something. And I've shared that story with my employees, with my family. You may not have much, but give your time if you can. You know, give money if you can, but give your time. Volunteer. Give something back.
I was raised the same way. Three things: money, talent, and time. We all have them to varying degrees. Give what you can.
That's awesome.
So it transfers to you personally. We talked about the Thunderbirds, and you are a Thunderbird. And my introduction to you as a Thunderbird was watching you MC Michael Phelps at the Tee-Off Luncheon. First of all, you're a funny guy. You are very funny.
Yeah,
where do you get that sense of humor
We had
from?
some fun. I don't know. You know, it's when the light's on, the camera's on, you're much better, but there's times where we all shine if we can prep ahead of time.
It was great.
But that was fun. Michael was great. You know, if you have someone that you can interact with who's a lot of fun, and he was. Michael was terrific. We had Peyton Manning this year. I was able to MC with Peyton Manning and interview him. That's pretty cool. Those are pinch me moments too.
So the Thunderbirds last year, $10.1 million raised just at the golf tournament.
It's incredible.
That is given back in the community. This year, probably going to be even more money. And you're on the board of people that decide where that money goes. But it stays right here, doesn't it?
It does. So first off, being a Thunderbird is tremendous. I mean, the fact that you have so many community leaders from so many diverse backgrounds and businesses who come together. They're all CEOs. We talked about it. They're CEOs, they're bosses, they're type A, yet you put all ego aside, you just want to do what's right for the community. And you're going to help so many different youth organizations, so many different sporting organizations, but we don't say no to many. It's much like our foundation, the D-Backs Foundation. And then to serve on the Thunderbirds charity board, and I've got members of the community who are outstanding members, but they're not Thunderbirds. But to sit around the table and every other person is a Thunderbird, then you have a leader from the community, and you're all deciding how to spend that money. It is so rewarding, and you're trying to find more. Okay, if we could just do a little bit more for this project. I know they're asking for 250 grand. If we did 300 grand, what more could we do? And to pull from this and add to here and there, and it's a whole group that gets it and wants to give back.
What I loved about learning about the Thunderbirds is, like you said, watching people do it for the right reasons. It's got, I don't know if you take it as a compliment or not, but the tournament and the Bird's Nest are so immense it overshadows the number we just said of $10 million in 1 year.
It does.
It is incredible. Again, this year, that tournament was just out of control.
Every year. And Mike, it's going to continue to go like this because the popularity, the word of mouth, people now know it's something I have to go do. It is a Super Bowl. It is a Daytona 500. It's a World Series. I've got to go down to Phoenix. And then once you're in, you're hooked. You're going every year. And that's why it just keeps getting bigger and bigger when you could get 200,000 a day or 250,000 a day. And you look what they've done with 16, and now it's like its own little coliseum, and now it's spread to 17 and then to 18, and it just keeps going and going. And fans like different venues. They like to go to the Bird's Nest at night, every night if they can. And because of that, the community is going to benefit forever.
And they benefit a great deal. So I wanted to thank you. First of all, what the Diamondbacks do was the brainchild. That was what gave me the idea for the Legacy Leaders thing. But getting to know you a little bit and what you do personally, I think it starts with the leadership of the D-backs. So thanks to the Thunderbirds and to the D-backs for everything you do. And it really is a pleasure to watch the D-backs play, knowing the leadership's got the community in mind.
Appreciate that, Mike. Yeah, we don't know how we're going to do on the field, but we always want to make Arizonans proud, and we're going to do all we can to impact the community. But it's people like you, too. There's no surprise to me that we're sitting here talking about community because you care about the community, too. So thanks for all you do as well.
Best part of the job. Thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
Derrick Hall. We'll be back.